Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Geomologist Presents. I have a special guest on with me today, and that special guest is Joe Salvador.
Thanks for having me on, Carl. Good morning, everyone.
So Joe is famous or infamous for his work in on Eldritch Tales, and that's mainly why I brought him in. But he's also done some freelance writing for Hyperborea, one of the best, I would say, modules from Hyperborea First Edition. The You'll tell me the title.
The
The
forgotten fame of the
Forgotten Fane
coiled
of the Coiled
goddess.
Goddess. There you go. So, which is cool because it's like one of the little pocket dimensions that exist in Hyperborea. Maybe we'll talk about that. But like I said, um, currently he has a Kickstarter going on for his sword and sorcery role-playing game Reaver, and we'll jump into that because I think it does align with the topic I wanted to have him on
Hmm.
for today, and that is to
Sure.
talk about uh, Cthulhu mythos, also called Yog-Sothery, um, the works of H.P. Lovecraft, Ashton Smith, and others, but mainly those two, I would think. Maybe you might have other. Oh, Robert E. Howard, yeah,
Hmm.
the
Yeah.
trifecta there, I think. So we're going to talk about that, and this is kind of a continuation of topics brought out with my last episode, 309, the Talathulu, because someone, BJ Boyd of the Arcane Alienist, when I mentioned Metallica and the Ride the Lightning in my Metal Minute that I do on my podcast, that he's like, yeah, the Call of Cthulhu instrumental at the end of Ride the Lightning.
Hmm.
That I know that got a lot of people into what does that mean? What is
Hmm.
Cthulhu? What is Cthulhu? And and then I did a small dive into that topic, and apparently uh, Cliff Burton was big into H.P. Lovecraft. That's the former bassist, the original bassist from Metallica, and he and actually the guitarist Kirk Hammett would play Call of Cthulhu, which is pretty cool actually. And there's
That's
several
pretty awesome.
songs. If you look through their catalog, there's several songs,
Hmm.
including the most recent one I think being Through the Never. I think is on the Black album, but I'm not sure. I at
Okay.
least track of Metallica after
Yeah. After
after
Black,
after
actually.
well a little before. I mean, and Justice for All, really.
Yeah.
Right. Oh yeah. So
Jason said that recently, actually. I heard Jason
oh
saying
really?
that. Yeah, I like the Black album, but yeah.
Weber or Connerly or Hobbs?
Connolly.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
No, I think it was actually this that reminded me, and maybe I'll bring that up, or I'll just bring it up now. So Joe Richter did like the what did he do? He did one of the bands that he likes. He did like the first through fifth edition of that particular band. Oh, Tool. He did that for Tool,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
and you could do that for Metallica too, where like AD&D first edition Metallica is like Kill 'Em All, right?
Yeah.
And maybe and probably Ride the Lightning, right? That's the peak to me,
Yeah.
right? And then second edition is then Master of Puppets and
Uh-huh.
Justice for All, right?
Yeah.
They get a bit more
Then Black is
commercial.
like third edition.
Is Black? Yeah, Black is probably yeah, Black and some after that are like third edition. Fourth
Yeah.
edition is like Saint Anger because no one really liked it. And then
That's hilarious.
fifth edition is their latest one, which is done, better. But I don't even
Yeah.
remember the name. I don't know the title of it.
I don't know it, honestly.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't
yeah. But
know.
at least the songs that they play constantly on XM radio, they sound good. So, but definitely, I could definitely see that progression. So thank you, Joe Richter, for that. But anyway, so let's talk about Call of Cthulhu. What
Yeah,
is your, I guess, since you have written like a product dealing with the mythos stuff, I guess
sure.
how did you get into that? Why did you get into that? What is your, I guess, uh,
So,
familiarity? When did you start reading Lovecraft or Howard or Ashton Smith? Right. So,
yeah, wow, that's a good question. I was aware of Lovecraft, I think before Howard. Like I think I first read some kind of Lovecraft works probably right after high school.
yeah.
But
And were you
I
into
didn't really.
horror fiction before? Or...
I think one of my friends mentioned it and maybe let me borrow a book or something. Like it's
Mhm.
really vague, honestly. But I read the Ace Conans after that at some
Mhm.
point.
I
But at any
remember
rate,
those. Those are great. Yeah.
oh yeah, they're super, man. Um, But yeah, I wasn't like deep into Lovecraft until later. Another one of my friends started running. It was actually the D20 version of Call of Cthulhu,
Okay.
and we really got into it after that. Um, just it's always been around, I guess, since then. Um, as far as like Eldritch Tales itself, like that was kind of, I needed a creative outlet at the time, and I wanted to
Hmm.
do something with White Box because I liked it so much. And at the time, White Box then was kind of like the apple of the OSR's eye, so to speak.
Hmm. Yeah.
That's obviously been kind of stolen away by um, like uh, old school
OS.
essentials and whatnot.
Yeah. OSC.
But yeah, so I mean, I was really inspired by White Box, and I wanted to do something with it. And um, like I said, at the time, I was like really into Lovecraft stuff. I was reading it a lot. I was reading
Hmm.
Smith and everybody else. So just kind of like fell together, man.
That's cool. So
Yeah.
yeah. So tell me about. I'll tell the listeners about Eldritch Tales, and
Oh,
why maybe that's a good alternative if you don't like well, for one, if you don't like percentile dice, um,
yeah.
or if you don't like sort of there's a bit of strangeness and in Call of Cthulhu role playing, right? I think the percentile dice, the way sanity works,
Hmm.
there's
Yeah.
certain subsystems, right, that are challenging and people probably don't use very much, like
Hmm.
the grappling rules or
I think that's in
or
every game.
the chase. Yeah, every game, the chase rules. But so
Yeah.
why is Eldritch Tales a good alternative? And actually, I agree with you. I really like White Box a lot. I've
Hmm.
recently been working with Operation White Box, the
I love it.
World War
Heck
II
yeah.
role playing game, and added. It's cool because it's OD&D, swords and wizardry.
Hmm.
You can tack on things, and
Exactly.
they don't seem
Exactly.
like another subsystem.
Well, that's kind of like that'll be one of my points. I'll come back to that.
Yeah.
So Eldritch Tales, like we mentioned, is a white box role-playing game based in the works of H.P. Lovecraft. It will be very familiar to anybody who plays like old school D&D style games. It's a class-based system. You have four classes, not unlike uh, white box. So the classes are basically like analogous to like the fighter and whatnot. It's the combatant, the a socialite, the opportunist, and uh, the antiquarian. Um, so they all kind of have specialized sort of like skills and whatnot, well, abilities. It's very simple and streamlined. Power level is kind of reined in by limiting the character levels. But every class also has a career, which they can pick. That's like, during character creation. And that career gives them, specialized kind of like skills and where they can focus their investigative efforts, that kind of thing. So you might have a journalist or soldier or policeman or what have you, who might also be a socialite. So there's more character build in
Mhm.
Eldritch Tales than there is in other white box games for the most part. But I think it's important for a game like a Lovecraftian sort of like Call of Cthulhu style game because you need some variation in characters.
Mhm.
So you might have a combatant who is a police officer. You might have a socialite who's a police officer who approach the same problem in completely different ways,
Mhm.
right? Um, so there's that, and like I said, it's basically streamlined D20 system. Very narrative. There's not a whole lot of combat rules or things like that. It's mostly will be mostly familiar to people who play those games. There's new rules for firearms and whatnot. Um, Spell casting is a little bit different. It is a roll to cast system.
Mhm.
Um, I went to roll to cast a long time ago, and it was the perfect place to start writing about it.
Yeah, I think
But it
that fits the genre, right? I mean, you're
absolutely, yeah, yeah,
right.
it's dangerous. Like you could totally
Mhm.
screw it up, and but yeah.
It all comes from, you know, the great old ones and
Mhm. Sure. Like there's in the game, like in other Lovecraftian games, you can find the Necronomicon or the
Mhm.
De Vermis Mysteries and learn spells from those books and whatnot.
Mhm.
Uh Eldritch Tales includes a lot of like monsters, Lovecraftian monsters, like Night Gaunt, uh, Moon Beasts, etc., as well as kind of like sort of more like classic monsters, like the vampire and the mummy. So you might actually do like sort of like a
Right.
Hammer horror style game like
Yeah,
this
cool.
usually. Uh, that's kind of it in a nutshell. What I was going to say earlier is that you touched on something that is really important, and one of the reasons why I like White Box so much is that everything is mix and match. You can, matter of fact, my friend Del Tiegler, the artist, the well-known artist of the OSR,
Mhm.
told me once that he combined Operation White Box with Eldritch Tales and basically ran,
Oh, like
like a
Octane Cthulhu.
World War II. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly,
like an
exactly.
Octane Cthulhu-esque
Right. So
thing.
you
That's
can add
cool. That's a
anything
great
from White
idea.
Box. Totally. And you can do that with White Lies, which is an espionage game. You could do it with, normal white box and add some Lovecraftian monsters to your
Mhm.
fantasy game. Anything like that works, and it's really simple to port over. And kind of in the long run, that's one of the things that really sets it, not only Eldritch Tales, but also like the white box system, kind of
Mhm.
apart from some of the other things, is that you can just like meld it all together. It's super cool.
Yeah, yeah. Recently, like I was talking about, I was melding Operation White Box. And I'll probably run this at a couple conventions this year with like godlike, so like low level
Okay.
superpowers, right? So, and it's really easy because I mean, you model them somewhat like spells, uh, but I think with the just with everything being like a D6, it's so like it's like
Yes.
a um I guess geometric progression, right? In
Yeah.
power, and so it's like it's pretty easy to conceptualize and
Yes.
argue for. So I think it's pretty good, and it was fun. Like I recently contributed to this Anchorite uh
Mhm.
APA thing,
Yeah.
and it was fun to just conceive of like one of the supervillains, like one of the German
Uh,
supervillains. Like
okay.
she's called the Flying Fire, which I don't remember how to say that in German. Like Clear Diff
Okay.
Use or something like. Well, anyway, I
Yeah.
had the
Yeah.
name in there, but I just thought of it like, oh, this sounds really cool, and then was able to
hmm
um, tack on the superpower and find a way to make it make sense within the context of white box without really adding in any other rule other than selecting your superpowers.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Pretty much, right?
Yeah. That's cool.
And
I,
how
I
you
like that.
recover superpower
hmm
um, points, right? So,
Right.
but
Right.
then I just used like con because con's not related to attacking,
Sure.
and none of the classes in
Okay.
that game use
Yeah.
con.
Oh,
So
very
if that
cool.
diminishes, then it kind of works out, right? So
Yeah.
I mean, it could kill you, but but
Yeah.
that
Nice.
that's also
Nice.
fits the genre, I think. Or
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Like, what's interesting you said that, like in Eldritch Tales, each of the classes is tied kind of like to one of the stats. Like the
Mhm.
combatant is like the strengths
Right.
class. Kind of like, what was it? D20 Modern had like the fast class and whatnot. The
Mhm.
opportunists are like the dexterity class, socialites,
Right. Right.
charisma class, that kind of
Well,
thing.
it's a class that's classic D&D. Fighter
Yeah,
strength, thief,
sure.
dex, right? Wizard,
Yeah,
intelligence, cleric, wisdom,
yeah,
right? So
yeah.
yeah, so that's pretty cool. It's a cool system, and every time I revisit it, I really enjoy it. So that's
Oh, nice.
in a
Thank
way
you.
that's why I wanted to talk about Eldritch Tales because now maybe I'll have like a superhero Achtung Cthulhu
Yeah, yeah, totally.
mashup using Eldritch Tales and Lightbot.
It's like wow, it's kind of going back. But back in the day, we played HeroClix, and they eventually put out like a Cthulhu. It was like 2 feet tall. With it
Oh
was like a
wow.
giant HeroClick. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
where you could play Superman against Cthulhu, whatever.
Yeah, I could. I do have like about a 6 to 8 inch high Cthulhu,
Nice.
painted Cthulhu that I
Yeah.
did. It's a pretty
Oh,
cool looking
sweet,
thing,
sweet.
and I put it next to I used to. I should break them out though, because one of my friends is bothering me. Like the Warhammer 40K, I have an
hmm
Eldar army, so spells
Uh-huh.
space elves for people. They have one of these kind of not the not a Titan, but like a mini Titan, kind of
hmm
like the equivalent of the Terminator, not the Terminator, but when the Space Marine dies, they put him in a box.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I can't remember the name of that thing. I can't believe it. We can't remember it. Not the
I'm
Terminator
not
armor,
sure.
but anyway, like the Space Marine, it's about like the equivalent of a Space Marine robot thing, and you can
Okay.
put them
Yeah.
together, like it's kind of cool.
Yeah, I have very little experience with 40K.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I was working with somebody that talked about it a little bit, but
yeah.
yeah,
I
not quite
definitely
a
there's Mythos influences in
Mhm.
40K.
You know, it
for
seemed like
sure,
it.
right? The chaos gods, right?
Yeah.
But that's also like more Kakian, right? That's like law
Yeah.
versus chaos and
Yeah. It's
stuff like
very,
that.
yeah, it's very like European.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you mean European?
Well, I feel like, well, obviously Games Workshop is a British company, right?
Oh, right, right.
But like whenever I think of like British gaming,
Hmm.
that kind of like I don't know how to say it, that artistic representation, like the way they present their settings and their characters, I
Hmm.
feel like it's very different, or reasonably different than what you see in America. I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe I'm wrong.
possibly, right? Like, well, it's like a grim dark, there's like
Yeah,
a
yeah, it's gritty.
there's
It's gritty
it's
looking.
gritty looking, it's a grim dark. There's like this ironic humor
Yeah.
that kind of subsists through the background. That
Hmm.
Warhammer Fantasy, perfect example, right? So,
Yeah.
which is really
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, very cool.
All right. So I do have a question for you then, and we're gonna
Okay.
jump topics. We're gonna jump to Reaver, just to give you
Okay.
a heads up. So, what are the mythos influences then in Reaver?
Oh, yeah. So like I said before, like the setting, Sagas of Senor, that is built into Reaver sits kind of separately from the rules, but it's kind of mentioned on occasion. Um, is largely, pseudo-historical. Most of the inspiration is taken from the ancient world and like Mediterranean mythology, and the mythologies of like Northern Europe and Africa, things like that.
Mhm. Yeah,
Um,
I do appreciate that about Reaver. It's not just Northern Mediterranean, right? It's not just
oh yeah,
Greek,
no.
Roman, Germanic, Gaul.
Yeah, it's
It's
it's very broad.
right.
It's so broad to the point where I'm running out of pages. I need to edit it down. Uh, so yeah, Lovecraft, it comes in, and yeah, kind of like just in general, like Lovecraft always creeps into the things that I do. I do have like sort of like elder gods or like old ones.
Mhm.
They're not only a few of them are actually the actual uh Lovecraftian. They're like Yog-Sothoth I've
Mhm.
used. But
Mhm.
other things are kind of analogs. I have a deity named Garmotha, who's basically Sathagwa,
Mhm.
and a Shuggaroth, which is uh Shub.
Niggurath, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Uh, and there are others. One there's I don't, there it's in there. It's
Yeah.
built into the setting itself, and it's built into the like the deities,
Mhm.
the way they're worshipped. Shuggaroth specifically shows up in a variety of like the cultures, like the origins, what I call them
Mhm.
in the game, um, and is worshipped unknowingly as like a facade, like Gaia is most
Oh,
likely
interesting. Yeah.
Shuggaroth, and a lot of the like early um, fertility deities, male and female, are both they're all Shuggaroth, and people just don't realize that.
Mhm.
They think it's different. So it's like masks, right? Like
Yeah.
masks from Nyarlathotep, but these are masks from Shuggaroth.
Right.
So that's kind of built in. Some of these creatures actually live on the planet uh, that the world exists on. Some are like extra dimensional or extraterrestrial, what have you.
Mhm.
There's like some secrets in the setting that
Yeah. You don't
you
want
don't
to
need.
spoil
I don't want to
everything, right?
spoil them. Yeah, I don't want to spoil them.
Yeah.
But yeah, like obviously there's gonna be like cults and weird
Mhm.
things like that. People probably that watch your show, listen to your podcast, know that you've played in the long-term play test and you guys
Right.
experienced some of these things already.
Right.
Um,
Which I thought was really cool. So, so definitely, maybe you should try your hand at some of these, like as an author on some short stories, because I love your world building. And
thanks so
I
much.
remember one
Yeah.
sequence when we played, where my character had like an astral journey, and I thought that should
Oh
have been penned down, and
yeah.
because that it's very, I mean, it was very Smith-like, but it was
Mhm.
very cool, right? And it's definitely in the context of the Reaver role-playing game and
Yeah,
the
appreciate that, man.
mythology that you've created, for the
I
world.
take no credit for that. Like everything I do is inspired by something else, man.
Yeah,
Like I
sure.
think
Like
Schwarzenegger
everyone
says
else.
that, Schwarzenegger always says he's not a self-made man because he's been inspired by other people. And
Yeah,
that's true. That's
that's
absolutely
true.
true.
That's true. But then you take it and you make it your own, right?
Yeah, you
That's,
meld it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, everything is incremental and it builds on everything else. But that's a
Hmm.
philosophy for another day.
Yeah.
That's how science works, and it's definitely
Right.
how
Absolutely.
literature works, right? So,
Absolutely.
right. So, Cool.
Yeah,
If you've ever played Civilization, you realize that
yeah,
you gotta
yeah. So I guess other like Lovecraftian elements, obviously. The
but
setting
do you have
itself is
like
like,
deep ones and
yeah, there are deep
other
ones and serpent people,
serpent people?
things like that.
Hmm.
Uh, there's so much in my head, and I don't really even know where to start. I have a long sort of like chronology of the planet and
Oh,
like the
neat.
setting in general.
Is that going to be
Uh,
in the
no, uh,
uh
right now it's just for me.
that's okay.
It's kind of like my setting Bible that I
Oh,
need to work
nice.
on to
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
keep it logical and
That's so
consistent.
cool. So
Um,
you could write fiction for this world if you put your
yeah, and I think eventually I feel like if when I do eventually like release my chronology,
Mhm.
people could easily play the game in different eras, different
Oh,
epochs.
neat. Yeah.
Um, at any rate, it's very ancient. I guess to spill some of the beans, elder things like arrived on the planet and actually like instigated evolution
Mhm.
so that humans basically were created by their experiments eventually,
Mhm.
more or less. Um, and the rise of like kind of like intelligent life drew the attention of other creatures.
Mhm.
So then you get like um, maybe like Set or Yig coming
Mhm.
to visit the planet, that kind of thing. That would have all happened in the ancient past, and then similar to like Howard's style of Robert E. Howard's style of world building. There's like
Mhm.
epochs of humanity where civilizations rise and then fall into
Evolve and
barbarism, whatever.
mhm.
Um, the current age is called the Thraxian Age, so called for the empire
Mhm.
that kind of rules the land of the time. Um, and it is just like the most recent age, and it is built upon sort of like ancient empires that have fallen and have been mostly forgotten, except by like sorcerers and scholars and philosophers.
Mhm.
Um, and those ancient empires would have dealt more closely with kind of like the Lovecraftian deities and elements.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I mean, it's kind of look at in a nutshell. Yeah, I can go on and on
Yeah, sure.
and on. Yeah,
That's cool. That sounds really neat. And you're gonna put hints about that in the
yeah,
current Reaver book. So
yeah. There's
let's talk about the Reaver Kickstarter then. How
sure.
do you feel it's going?
Oh,
We
yeah.
got
So
what, 12 days to
we're
go?
just over 2 weeks in. We've got less than 2 weeks to go.
Hmm.
We've doubled our initial funding level, which is amazing.
Hmm.
I'm kind of stunned and humbled by the amount of support that's come out to it. And I mean, like you mentioned off before we start recording, like there's a lot of Kickstarters right now
Hmm.
for like really big games and like, that my little game got 11K right now is amazing. We're kind of in the doldrums right now, so like I'm sure you've probably noticed that most Kickstarters they start really strong,
Hmm.
and then like the middle weeks are like just kind of flat, slowly climbing, and then the
Hmm.
last few days there's usually like a spike. So I'm hoping still to get a few more stretch goals unlocked. If anybody is following the project or is just now hearing of it, whatever,
Hmm.
um, any any assistance is much appreciated. Share the project everywhere and let your friends know.
Yeah. Yeah, there are various pledge levels, and including like, right, there's a print on demand
Yeah,
option
so
for people overseas or
so there's PDF, there's a
Mhm.
print on demand soft cover, which is probably the best option for people outside of the States.
Mhm.
And then there's the hardcover edition, which is going to be an offset print run, which will, it's going to have features that a print on demand product won't have. It's going to have printed end sheets. It's going to have bookmarks, ribbon bookmarks.
Mhm.
And if we unlock the stretch goal, we're going to do a foil logo on the cover and the
Oh, nice.
spine.
Yeah.
So I'm really hoping we get there because I think that'd be pretty plush.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, a few different options available. The book I hope is going to just look amazing and
Mhm.
blow everybody away.
Yeah. Yeah. So the stretch goal, the uh, current stretch goal that we're trying to target is the 12,500. And
Hmm.
he'll add another scenario, which if you've heard the world building that Joe just described, then you want those other scenarios because they add to that, which is pretty cool. And then the foil cover. And then if we get to 15,000, then another scenario. And I think that's always a great way to build. That's why I really love the quick start, because I think it's a like a mini campaign. It's a great way to
Yeah.
build to help the GM as they're running it understand the world. I really like that philosophy. I like you do that. Jeff Talanian has done that with Hyperborea,
Mhm.
and Steve Grunzwicki has done that with Tales of Argosa. I think, and that goes back to like, we don't have a world. I mean, the Greyhawk book came later, but first it was the modules, right? That
Mhm. Sure.
that
Yeah.
told about and developed the world. And I think
Yeah.
that's a really fantastic way to do it. So
Yeah.
the quick start. Talk about the quick start also, right? It's out there.
Yeah. Yeah. The quick start's been out there a while. The rules that are expressed in that are not the current finalized version of the rules, but they're very close.
Okay. How do you know any differences off the top of your head, or I know?
Just mostly in like language, just use like I changed like hit points to vitality and some of
Okay.
those
Oh,
things are
right.
just different.
To kind of erase all the OGL.
Yeah, I tried to get
Kind
away
of.
from like some of the D&D talk basically that was kind of inherent in the
Hmm.
original game. But
Yeah.
there's not a whole lot in there that's going to be different. It's more
Hmm.
streamlined. It's just now it's just cleaner. Um, yeah, so the quick start is big.
Yeah.
It's like 90 pages. It includes quite a bit of the core rules as
Hmm.
far as like the combat, spellcasting and things. The only thing you're not really getting in that is like all the character creation stuff and the full
Right.
spell list, corruption, things like that.
Hmm.
Um, the adventure in there is more of like a sandbox. It's not, I mean, I don't play a lot of quick starts. The ones I've read are pretty straightforward, like kind of railroads.
Yeah.
Just to kind of like show people their system, I went a completely different way. I gave two kind of like main scenarios, but made it like kind of like a sandbox where people can go
Hmm.
in and just kind of experience the world
Right.
and the rules together.
Yeah. There's definitely
Um,
different directions you can go in. I've run
mhm,
it. I've run the quick start a couple of times at conventions, and the end result was different, but the way they got there, sorry, the end result was the same, but the way they
mhm.
got there was completely different,
Yeah,
because it does
yeah,
have
that's
that
cool.
sort of sandbox feel. And then
Yeah.
they didn't even tackle, I would say, like at a convention, which is like a 4 hour block, I only covered, maybe a fifth to a sixth of what's in
Mhm.
there, right? So you could
Yeah,
really expand.
yeah.
There's
Um,
several expansion that you could do that
mhm.
the on that from a 4 hour game. So I would say you probably get 16 to 20 hours of
Oh,
play from that.
easy. So I can
Easy.
tell you that whenever I was originally like writing it, now this is going back like
Yeah, way.
when the
Mhm.
game was like a D20 game.
Mhm.
But I ran the material in there for at least 3 months, but I think it was more like 4 months of bi-weekly games.
Mhm. Starting from
And
were they starting from first level, or was it
they did start from first level actually, because
okay.
I was just kind of like flying by the seat of my pants.
Yeah.
Um, That said, I mean, like I said, it's a big sandbox and you can kind of like just let your players do whatever. If you wanted to run it as a one shot like you did at the convention, very easy. Just I'd take either one of those
Yeah.
scenarios and just do it.
Hmm.
Just go right into it. Um, so yeah, there's the quick start gives people a lot of options
Right. Yeah.
to experience the system.
Hmm.
Um, and like you said, like what I want to do with the future of the game and like how I present the setting and like make new rules or new monsters and things like that is exactly the way I did the quick start. Um, we're gonna have a bunch of setting information, maybe some, I don't know, new classes, new spells, new monsters, whatever, and then scenarios,
Right.
right? Um, and I'm gonna let the cat out of the bag, actually. I'm gonna drop something right here on your podcast.
Okay.
Uh, if we get through these two stretch goals at $15,000, we get the name list in the third scenario.
Mhm.
The final stretch goal for now that I have in my mind is going to be at $20,000, and it's going to be a setting guide for the Eastern Reach. It will combine the three scenarios that are unlocked with other scenarios and a bunch
Mhm.
of setting information for that area. That's the area that you guys have been playing in, so it'll be super easy for me to clean it up and put it into a book. But I'm
Nice.
going to need to buy art and covers and all that stuff, so it has to be a bigger jump in
Hmm.
in cash.
Right.
So that's I would love to get there. I think it would be totally amazing to get there.
Yeah.
Um, so we'll see.
Yeah. We're more than halfway to that goal.
Yeah, yeah, man.
So that'd be really cool. So, all right. So that's one. that kind of leads into a question that I was going to ask about expanding Reaver. So,
Mhm.
what are your plans to expand Reaver in the future? Are you going to just be working then on adventures, putting them on drive through? Is there a
Oh,
plan? What
sure. Yeah.
about, and also the follow-up question to that? So hold on to that thought. Is I know that Jeff has let other people write in his world. Is that an option too? And what would have you thought about that process, at least at a basic level? Or
Oh, yeah, sure. So as kind of like an armchair historian, I mean,
Mhm,
I went to school for history, but I don't work in history.
mhm,
Uh, like I personally feel like I know enough about like Germanic cultures and Celtic cultures and like basically like Greco-Roman cultures
mhm,
to write in those worlds without like stepping on toes.
mhm,
For African cultures, African inspired cultures, like that kind of thing, I don't have the knowledge. I'm learning things as I write and
mhm,
trying not to get into like cultural appropriation, things like that. When the time comes for me to do a setting guide for the Mombani people or Nimbian people, I'm going to hire somebody for this.
mhm.
I want a writer who knows what they're talking about with those things,
Yeah.
if at all possible. I mean, if I don't have the money for it, or it's maybe the um the funding isn't there for it, maybe I'll have to do it myself and just be super careful.
Mhm,
Uh, but that would be my goal, would be to hire somebody who really knows those
mhm.
worlds and can um cleanly port it into a fantasy world. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely want to do setting guides and adventures. Depending on the size of the book that I would be working on. So, like, say the Eastern Reach guide. A lot of that's already done, right?
Yeah.
Because we've been playing in that setting for quite a while. Um, what I would need to pay for would be like art, mostly, kind of like what I'm doing with the core book. I would have to determine if I wanted to do an actual print run or if it would just be print on demand only. Um, like it's kind of up in the air, really.
Mhm,
A lot of that's going to be gauged on this Kickstarter and how it plays out and the support it gets and the interest in the game and how it grows. Um, Business wise, I guess I intend to be at more cons over the coming year or two.
yeah, that'd be cool.
Just to yeah, totally. Just to get the game out there, get it played by more people, and get some more input really.
Mhm.
Uh, but there's stuff in the pipeline, and I have a lot of ideas on the setting. I have so much setting information written.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, there's a lot to do. There's a lot to do and a lot to see for people that are interested.
Cool. All right.
Yeah.
Um, I thought there was another question I was gonna ask, but I don't quite.
Anything.
Huh? Anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was pertaining to Reaver, but I I think you answered. Oh, here we go.
Okay.
So I know you're focused. It's focused right now on the Mediterranean.
Mm,
clearly the world is bigger.
yeah.
So have you thought about that or expanded that? Let's say to, is there? Well, I don't know. Right. If
Like,
you go east out of off
yes.
the map or west,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, those
Or
places
north or
exist.
south. I mean, shoot, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, those
why
places
not?
all exist. If you go far enough north, you will run into the Northmen,
Uh-huh.
who are basically Hibernians
Yeah.
that are on the sea.
Hmm.
If you go farther south, this is going to be outside of the core rule book,
Hmm.
stuff that I had to cut out
Hmm.
because it's just too much.
Yeah.
There's a jungle area that is still inhabited by dinosaurs and whatnot, and
Oh,
it's
neat.
people by the Gwazi people who are um, basically inspired by the Mbuti, pygmy people of Africa.
Hmm.
Uh, Beyond that, there are savannas and things like that, things that you would imagine that would be in
Hmm.
Africa.
Hmm.
Far to the east is a land called Agartha,
Hmm.
um, and probably other stuff. I don't know if I want to use Lemuria or something else. I don't know.
Hmm.
But yeah, there'll be like the eastern settings and whatnot. That's That's in the far future.
Yeah,
It's a lot of work.
yeah,
Uh,
that's cool.
one of the hints in that you will see in the core rulebook is that the Amazons are like my maybe the most fantastic playable people.
Mhm.
Um, they are uh, just incredible sailors and warriors, and um, they have reached western regions that are just basically known as the Far Land. It's a basically in the setting it's a Amazonian secret on how they get there because they can get like goods and whatnot from those places.
Mhm.
So it will be possibly something to explore at some point.
Oh,
But yeah,
cool.
I have little hints in there about things like that.
Oh,
The
neat. I
world
like that.
outside.
So is the world flat or round?
It's a planet. It's round.
Okay. Is
Yeah.
there a bigger cosmology?
Yes.
Oh, of course there is.
Uh,
I experienced that in a way.
yeah, you did. Um, yeah, it's a
That's
planet.
cool.
Yeah, if you want to talk more setting, uh,
Yeah, of course. That's fun for me. So.
yeah, before the current age, the Thraxian age, there was a period of time, an epoch. My cat's crying.
Oh.
Basically known as the Long Night, and it
Mm.
was epitomized by the destruction of the original moon by some extraplanar entity, basically known as the Destroyer.
Mhm.
Um, that caused the previous age to end in like natural disasters from meteorites and things like that.
Mhm.
Um, and also some kind of like weird metallic mana that rained on the planet and
Mm.
destroyed stuff. So I don't know, like 10,000, 15,000 years pass, and then another moon arrives in the orbit. Basically, it's a comet that
Mhm.
arrives near the planet and is sucked into its orbit, which causes more problems. Um, and ends the long night. The long night is the period of like sort of like sorcerous civilizations like ancient Hyperborea, the Cimmerus, um, uh, the serpent people uh, in Kuwait and things
Mhm.
like that.
Mhm.
At any rate, like there's a lot that goes on. So now, like like when the game is set now, in the Thraxian age, when you look in the sky, you see a moon and you'll see like an asteroid field
Oh, neat.
that that is kind of like it is called the Stallions because
Mhm.
it appears to like pull the chariot of the moon around the sky.
Oh, neat.
Um, yeah, so
That's a little different.
yeah, there's a lot going on.
That's very dangerous. Also,
Yeah,
astronomically speaking, because those things
yeah,
could fall at any time,
sure. Yeah, they're
depending on
they're
the
like
orbit that they're in.
right. Yeah, like in my mind, it's kind of like a regular orbit, but certainly like things might come down as like meteorites and
That's
things.
another adventure too.
Absolutely.
You gotta. There's probably still remnants of those meteorites that hit.
Mhm. Yeah, there's an area, a few areas probably on the map that will be like crater
Yeah,
marks and whatnot, you know.
neat. Cool.
Um,
Sounds
yeah.
fun. Good stuff. All right. Yeah, so I definitely enjoying playing Reaver. We're playing play by post now because of the all the busyness with everyone's
Yeah.
schedule and especially yours with the Kickstarter, but it's really cool. And that's another adventure that's available for
Yeah, oh
Reaver.
yeah. So yeah, during the Halloween season, a fellow on Itch did what's it called, the Headless Halloween Game Jam.
Mhm.
And I quickly put together a scenario called The Doom of Fergal, which is set in the Sagas of Senor. It is playable with the quick start rules. And it basically takes players and the GM to what would be like sort of like the Gaelic analog, ancient Ireland analog of
Mhm.
Fedruin,
Mhm.
in which well, I'm not gonna tell you, they do stuff
Yeah,
that has to do with
I
that.
can imagine.
Yeah, that has to do with the Headless Horseman because that
Yeah,
was that was required.
yeah. That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, yeah, definitely want to get Reaver to the table again. I think it's really fun. It's fun to run. There, I like the way you tackle meta currency, right? It's like not a, I mean, uh, it's different, for example, than a 2D20, right? It's
Hmm.
no, it's before the fact, right? Which
Yes.
I
Yeah.
like, as opposed to like a Modifius 2D20, which can be after. Well, it depends.
Yeah.
So I think I like that system. I love the I've always liked the die chain mechanic, and I'm so glad that that was implemented during the playtest.
Yeah,
And
I've
the
been
unification of the because I know before we had early in the playtest, just for you listeners, we had like
mhm,
so combat was D20, and then
mhm,
the rest of the stuff was using the dice chain,
mhm, which
and
didn't make sense. Like,
which yeah,
yeah, no, you're right. I'm really happy with how the die chain has worked out. It's really intuitive.
mhm,
And like, well, I've told the story before, but Reaver was originally a white box
mhm.
game. So there were a lot of like kind of like leftovers in there that were like inspired by D&D, and I was using the OGL at the time. I used uh, advantage and disadvantage, things like that. That's all gone.
Mhm.
Um, and that's the die chain is just clean, smooth.
Cleaner, yeah. Even
It's
the meta
just
currency works. It's up and
easy to
down.
work.
It's not right. It's
Yep.
not
Yep.
advantage, disadvantage. It's just up or down. Bonuses or
Exactly.
not. Um,
Yep.
so
Yep.
yeah, well, good stuff.
Um,
You got any
yeah,
questions
man.
for me that maybe I forgot to ask you that you wanted to talk
Um,
about with either Lovecraftian stuff or Reaver?
uh, well, that's a good question, man. Like, I didn't think about that ahead of time. So whenever I know right now you're running a lot of Cthulhu games.
Mhm.
How did you get involved with Lovecraft?
How
How'd
did
you come
I
into
get?
it? Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I think I got into it late. I mean, I was a big Howard fan. I read that Ace, Black
Hmm.
Spine, well, Black
Yeah.
and White Spine. Um, incidentally, like I saw the whole collection, I think for like $125
Oh, wow.
at half price books the other day, but didn't have the funds right now to do that.
Yeah.
But that'd be
Yeah.
cool. And I've been trying to collect it over the time because I had it and then I lost it all or
Sure.
sold it all or
Sure.
whatever.
Yeah.
But I got into Howard, and I think through Howard when I didn't get into Lovecraft until college, and mainly because maybe because I was in New England, and
Oh, man.
I had a friend who went to Brown and Providence, it's Lovecraft country,
Yeah.
and I got into like the sci-fi club there in college, and they said, "Oh, have you heard about this guy?" And
Yeah.
that's
Okay.
probably when I started reading it. And then I think it was kind of cool because then, you're in Boston and you read Pickman's model and like, oh, I wonder if
Yeah.
they're, and then when you travel on the Green Line, so that like the Green Line is one of the first subways in
Okay.
Boston. And there's a lot of tunnels that you see branching off everywhere when you're
Really?
going through there. Yeah,
That's super
it's
cool.
not like I mean, it's not as clean as the metro or even
Hmm.
well, New York is also very convoluted like that. There's
Yeah.
tunnels that have been used before and closed and all that. But Boston is very much like that. And you're like, man, I wonder if I could imagine, and the Green Line's been around for a while. I can imagine, Lovecraft in the 20s,
Heck yeah.
imagining the ghouls and
Wow.
stuff like that. So,
That's
and of
interesting.
course, everything else that goes around in New England and taking a tour of the New England and the area, from, uh, so I think that was very inspiring when I was
Hmm.
up there. And that's how I kind of got into the Lovecraftian stuff. And then I dove in. I don't know if
Okay.
I played earlier versions of Call of Cthulhu,
Hmm.
um, but I'm probably the my first adventure was probably like the haunted house one
Okay.
that used to be in the back of the
Oh,
rule
yeah.
book. Yeah, the
Yeah.
haunting.
The haunting, maybe. Yeah. I
Yeah,
think
it's
that
called
is
the
a,
haunting.
that is
Yeah,
a
so I definitely
yeah, I
I
played
played. That
that.
was like my first Call of
Matter of
Cthulhu role
Matter of
playing
fact,
game.
I ran that for Eldritch Tales. I did a
For
conversion for
where?
it. With Eldritch Tales, I
Oh,
did a
did
conversion
you?
for it a long time ago. Yeah.
Oh, that's another question I had. So, what is available for Eldritch Tales other than the main rulebook? Are there other adventures out
Oh,
there?
I have one Eldritch Inquirer. It's called. It's kind of like it's an adventure and also like just like setting stuff, extra
Yeah.
rules and things like
Okay.
that. My intention was to do more of those,
Oh,
and I
okay.
would still like to.
Other people have done
Um,
Eldritch Tales stuff too, right? Have used
yeah,
those.
there's a license for it.
Okay.
And yeah, there's maybe some solo rules for it and some other
Mhm.
adventures and things that are out there that you can find.
Is there going to be a
Uh,
license for Reaver? Maybe that should have asked that question more directly.
Eventually, I don't know if
Okay.
I'm gonna do a true license for it or
Uh,
just,
like ask
um,
friends to write stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
which is, whenever I did Darkness of the Demi-Monde,
Hmm.
I just reached out to Scott
People.
Malthouse about it, and
Mm.
because I mean he wrote the game that inspired it more or less, so I
Yeah.
thought it would be correct and respectful if I asked them to do some writing for it.
That's cool.
Yeah, and now that you're saying some of these things, it kind of sparked a memory. Like I remember when we were playing second edition in AD&D, I played the hell out of Mask of the Red Death. And I think that is
Oh,
how I got
right.
into, I think that's how I got into Lovecraft because I got the original Cthulhu by Gaslight
Hmm. Okay.
and the Golden Dawn supplement from was it Pagan Publishing, maybe.
Hmm.
And that's like I didn't actually know what I was buying, but I was like, oh, this is Victorian, it might be helpful. And
Oh, neat.
that was definitely the first Lovecraft stuff I
I
had.
like I like Gaslight
Yeah,
stuff. I like the
love it.
Western Cthulhu stuff too. I mean the
Yeah.
yeah,
And
and
that's
Weird Frontiers and how that's
hmm
inspired definitely by Lovecraft.
sure,
That's a
sure.
DCC
Um, I know they have a
smack
new
baby.
version of Gaslight out. I need to pick that up.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how different those versions
It's
are.
I from what I saw, it seems like
I
it's
mean,
gonna be two books.
it's got new adventures and stuff. That's the
Yeah,
best
that
thing for me because
yeah.
you can always go back and use like I've used some of the adventures from earlier
Mhm.
editions in the seventh
Sure.
edition. I've tacked on pulp to Call of Cthulhu. I mean, it can be modular if you know what you're doing 'cause it's all
Yeah.
percentile dice.
Yeah,
It's
it
just like
seems
what I just sometimes I guess the subsystems get annoying to me in the
right.
new version of Cthulhu because it doesn't need to be that complex. Like I
Hmm.
like the Delta Green, how they streamlined, for example, a
Okay.
lot of things from a previous from they call it Cthulhu sixth edition, for example.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, right, but I like to. It's a good game. I think. And speaking of Mask of the Red Death, I think I got into Poe before I got into
Hmm.
Lovecraft. Right, so Poe, I
Yeah,
think,
definitely.
right? 'Cause I don't know. There was
Yeah, we
no
read.
was it in the '80s? Was there goths in the '80s? I don't know, but there are a lot of people.
Yeah, technically.
People who wore
Uh
black and dark eyeliner, and they're like, "Oh, you
yeah.
should read this. You should read this."
Bella
Tell
Lugosi's dead, right? Like
Yeah,
that's their first goth song, right?
yeah,
Something like that.
you should read this Telltale Heart thing. You might
Yeah.
like it, right?
Yeah, I
Cask
definitely
of
read
Amontillado,
Poe.
Cask of Amontillado is such an amazing,
Yeah.
revenge is a
I
dish best served
remember
cold.
reading Poe, I think in middle school. Like
Yeah,
it was
I
like
think so I
Murders
definitely
in the Rue
Poe,
Morgue and things like that.
but I didn't read any of the like longer Poe, right? So like the balloon thing, or I didn't read any of
Hmm.
that. And but then when Lovecraft, I dove right in. I was like the short stories, and
Okay.
then the novellas, like
Yeah.
at the Mountains of Madness is
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. There's
I
some
think that's
stories
on my
that
bucket
just
list. That game, like Return to the Mountains of Madness or something
okay.
like that.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know, but see, I'd be tempted to add in Aliens or Predators, unfortunately.
It's it's Lovecraftian. Uh, yeah.
Yeah, Geiger stuff seems very
Sure.
Lovecraftian
Yeah.
inspired.
I would say that the original Alien movie is definitely I would classify that as Lovecraftian.
Yeah,
Um, so what
even the
in
way
your
the
mind? So here's a question.
aliens, okay, here even the way the aliens look, right?
Mhm, exactly.
The navigators or whatever.
Yeah. So here's my question to you. What makes something, whether game or movie or whatever, Lovecraftian?
Oh,
Because this is a different answer for everybody, I think. There's no wrong
right.
answer.
I mean, just the element of the mythos, whether it's explainable or not. I think one
Mm,
of the coolest things that I ran, it was a play-by-post on Hero Central using Champions rules. Well, not Champion Superhero, but using Hero sixth edition or fifth edition revised, and it was set in the Western themed. It's called High Plains Heroes, and I threw in mythos stuff, but every character based on their origin, their background, interpreted the mythos stuff in a different way. So like
okay.
the guy who was like heavily like a Protestant Christian Methodist, whatever, he saw it as like God, God versus the devil.
Hmm.
The person who had like it was a Mexican origin, he saw visions of Nyarlathotep as Tezcatlipoca.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and then some, and then the Native Americans saw it as like elder spirits versus trying to destroy the world. So it's really cool to do that, and I added, but it was very subtle, right? And that's what
Hmm.
I liked. So I think if you introduce, that's what
I
makes
like
it
that.
Lovecraftian. I think is
Yeah.
and not like a and there's a difference, right? It's not like body horror
Yeah.
or that type of horror, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Or supernatural horror, but it's like I think a
It's a
subtle
it's a
introduction.
it's mental. It's like a
Yeah,
mental horror.
it's
It assaults.
psychological and
Yeah.
a feeling that you're so small right? It gets back to
Exactly.
that
Yeah,
sort of
that's
nihilism,
my
right?
thing. That's my
Right,
thing is that nothing really matters.
right. Yeah, you're
Uh,
so that there's something bigger going on and you have no
right,
control over it. And I think that's
right.
what's communicated, right? Through a subtle use of like visions or they or encounters that the players
Hmm.
had, things that they had to deal with psychologically, right?
Hmm. Yeah,
Like almost like a like I would see like even something like Dorian Gray, right?
yeah,
Like that
yeah, absolutely.
could be a psychological
Yeah.
type of horror. And
Um,
um,
and I kind of wonder, uh, we call it cosmic horror, right?
yeah,
But does it have to be cosmic in origin? Maybe not. I don't think
maybe
so.
not. I don't think so.
Um, but yeah, I think that's where I land is that uh, the revelation of the horror at the end of the story or what have you,
Mhm.
um, kind of reveals certain truths to the protagonist that they're unable to deal with.
Mhm.
The scientific beliefs, the religious beliefs, whatever, are either
Meaningless.
false or meaningless or lies, um,
Mhm.
and that there are other things in the universe that are just more capable of surviving and knowing. And the
Yeah.
humans are really small and almost like ants.
And I think
Yeah.
we might experience that if aliens ever come to Earth, right?
Yeah. Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be like childhood's end. Like
Yeah.
the devil steps out and like, what the? Well, cool. Well, Joe, I think that's a good place to stop. Thank you so much
I
for
appreciate
coming
it, man. I
on
think. Yeah.
and talking about Eldritch Tales, Yog-Sothery, a Reaver, and other things. So
Well, thanks for having me on, Carl. I appreciate it,
yeah,
man.